The stereotypical adventure bike is huge, ultra powerful, and packed with the latest tech. Oh, and it costs more than many cars. And that's great and all, I certainly enjoy my time on those bikes and they are a thrill to ride. But to be honest, no one really needs all those bells and whistles. They're nice to have, but a much smaller, simpler motorcycle will do the job almost as effectively as the big boys for 1/3 the price. Does that mean that it's 1/3 the bike? Absolutely not. Smaller adventure motorcycles will not only do the same things that the big bikes do 80 to 90% as well, they will often do some things better. And the most touring worthy of all the smaller crop of adventure bikes has always been the Honda CB500X, a 471cc, 180-degree parallel twin, 47 horsepower Euro A2 friendly small bike with big bike attitude. A nice looking bike too. In fact, the newish Honda Transalp 750 is largely styled after the CB500X. But shortly after the Transalp came out, Honda decided to overhaul the old CB, give it a new look, lighter wheels, new TFT with phone connectivity, standard traction control, better suspension, and improved fuel injection, and rename it the NX500. So does this new twin-cylinder NX live up to the reputation of the single-cylinder bikes that have carried the NX moniker in the past? Stay tuned for the full on- and off-road review. And if you're enjoying the content, please consider supporting the small channel by subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with friends. First, a quick description of the NX500. This is a 432-pound small adventure bike that costs $7,400 US or 9,400 Canadian. The Canadian price, however, includes freight and PDI, so considering the exchange rate, the bike is a much better deal in Canada. The NX500 is an update of the long-serving CB500X adventure bike with a few tweaks, the first being styling. The old CB used to be my wife Brooke's favorite motorcycle and she still likes the old styling better than the more modern, Dakar-inspired styling of the NX. Personally, I like them about the same, but we both prefer the color choices of the old bike, which came in red and green depending on which year you picked. Ironically, the new Transalp, which is far more expensive, mimics the design of the old CB while the NX gets the more modern treatment. The 471cc engine produces 47 horsepower and 32 pound-feet of torque, which makes it suitable for Euro A2 license holders. The bike gets refined fuel injection, which is supposed to improve acceleration over the outgoing CB. I've ridden the old CB500X in 2019 when the new model of that bike had just come out. It was quick enough, but the NX does feel more sprightly and tops out just under 100 miles per hour or 160 kilometers per hour. It gets there pretty quickly and has plenty enough power to cruise the highway, even 2 up. The motor is a parallel twin with a 180-degree offset crankshaft, which unfortunately means that it sounds a bit flat. The exhaust note is quiet but deep, and an aftermarket pipe would definitely help. For electronics, the bike is simple. It's got ABS that can't be switched off as far as I could see, and standard traction control that can be banished with one button. As nice as traction control is, I question if it's a necessity for a 47 horsepower bike. I suppose that if a beginner buys it, TC might come in handy in heavy rain, but off-road you want that stuff off or you'll never get anywhere. If I was making the decision at Honda, I'd drop the TC and make that button turn off the ABS instead. I do realize that some decisions are made by engineers and some by lawyers, and lawyers care more about customers not crashing than about them having an exciting ride. For other features of this motorcycle, the suspension has been tweaked and now feels a bit more firm. The NX500 seems more stable and precise in sweepers than the CB500X and holds a line nicely. The front forks have 6 inches of travel and the shock has 5.3, with the only adjustment being spring preload in the shock. The settings are well sorted for an average sized male, which I am, as I weigh 180 pounds or 82 kilos. If you're much heavier than that, you'll need stiffer springs. The travel is enough for bumpy pavement and dirt gravel roads, but not enough for harder off-roading, which of course I tried on this bike. More on that later. Other details? Fuel capacity is 17.5 liters or 4.6 gallons, good enough for 400 kilometers or 250 miles of mixed riding, including off-roading, and I wasn't gentle on the throttle. This bike is massively efficient, which makes for a good tourer. The brakes did their job well enough that I didn't notice them, so other than wishing for an ABS off switch, no complaints there. Dual discs up front are a nice touch, as the original CB500X had a single. The wheels have been lightened up on the new NX, which is the place you want to shave weight on a motorcycle. Lighter wheels mean lighter handling and side-to-side transitions, faster acceleration, and better braking. Wheel sizes are an adventure-ready 19 and 17 inches, though not the hardcore off-roading 21 and 18. The tires are extremely pavement biased, and on pavement, they help you rail the turns. Off-road is another matter. I'm a firm believer that you can ride off-road even on 90-10 tires like these, 90% pavement, 10% dirt, but you're always running a risk. You can amaze yourself by going through a whole bunch of rough terrain no problem, but then you hit a mud patch and are quickly reminded that knobbies have knobs for a reason.
Oh, tires. Ooh. Wow.
So, on pavement, this bike is a great handler and makes a wonderful touring companion. It is heavier than the competition from KTM or Kawasaki, but that gives it that big bike feel that the others lack. In fact, standing next to Honda's premier big tourer, the Africa Twin Adventure Sports, which now also comes with a 19-inch front wheel, the NX does not look tiny. The 432-pound weight provides stability at high speeds and in crosswinds, and makes the NX500 the best of the small ADV motorcycles on the highway or for two-up riding. And the new color TFT dash is far more visible than the one on the CB500X and adds phone connectivity for extra convenience. The weather protection is impressive, and I found myself in a bubble of calm air in the cockpit with no helmet buffeting despite being 6 feet or 182 centimeters tall. It would be nice to see an adjustable windshield like on the Africa Twin Adventure Sports, but the NX500 is built to a price point so you can't have everything. I'm sure the aftermarket will provide windshields of all sizes. Seat height is 32.7 inches, accessible to most, but there are lower seats out there in adventure bike land. A 6-footer is comfortable on this motorcycle, but it is clear that the NX is built to be accessible to smaller riders. The handlebar is narrowish and the pegs are back and up high, which makes for great sporty riding on pavement with lots of lean angle, although with a 33-inch inseam, I sometimes found myself wishing for more legroom. The seat is comfortable with a step that keeps you forward, but after 3 hours in the saddle, numb bumps set in for me and I had to stand up to relieve the pressure. And here is where I do have some criticism of a bike that carries Honda's famed NX Enduro name. It's not really an off-road ready motorcycle. The pegs are too far back and the bar's too low to make standing in off-road situations comfortable. Of course, me being me, I took the NX on some light single track, but the awkward standing position had me contorted as I tried to navigate the twists and turns, and for much of this ride I just sat down and took my bumps. The more concerning thing was the lack of a bash plate, with the first point of contact with rocks and roots underneath being the exhaust. The NX has a limited 7.1 inches of ground clearance, so I rode extra carefully and stopped when I wasn't sure I could make it in order to protect the bike.
Look at all those roots. Good luck. Well, almost made it actually. Hey, look at that. I mean, I had to paddle it through, but not too bad.
If that was my bike, a bash plate would be the first accessory on it, but truthfully, most buyers of this motorcycle will probably not need one. The majority of NX500s will spend all their time on pavement with some gravel and light dirt thrown in here and there, so ground clearance won't be an issue. And if you want a small adventure bike for riding more seriously gnarly trails, there are better choices out there for that. Nonetheless, I like this bike because it's not pretending to be a dual sport. If you want that, check out my wife Brooke's former motorcycle, the Honda CRF 300L Rally. It's nowhere near as good on pavement as the NX500, but is infinitely better on the gnarly stuff. If you're absolutely set on making this into a more effective off-road weapon, the knobby tires should come soon after the bash plate. However, in this price range, the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450 or CF Moto Ibex 450 are more off-road ready. Other competitors include the KTM 390 Adventure, BMW G310 GS, and Kawasaki Versys X300. If you want to include more dirt-oriented possibilities, the aforementioned 300L Rally, the Honda XR650L, Suzuki DR650, and Kawasaki KLR 650 all fall into the same price range. The NX500 is the most refined and balanced pavement tourer of the bunch, but is also the most limited off-road. Honda knows the market and generally is good at providing riders with what they want. So it's safe to assume that, like their four-wheeled SUV cousins, most adventure motorcycles are designed to be sporty pavement munchers that can do some light off-roading when needed. And the NX500 is that. In fairness, it can do some gnarly stuff too, but there are better bikes for that if that's what you're looking for. So, is this NX500 an enduro like the previous NX Hondas? No. Is it the most balanced and pavement-ready adventure motorcycle in this price range? Yup, no surprise there. Honda makes refined motorcycles. And reliable ones too, which will be another selling point of this NX. This powertrain has been around for a while and has been bulletproof. The new NX is a definite improvement on the already good CB500X. It is more modern, better outfitted, better handling, and a bit quicker to boot. It feels like a lot more bike than the horsepower figures and specs indicate, which is again typical of Hondas. They tend to be greater than the sum of their parts. As I rode this bike in to exchange it for the new Africa Twin Adventure Sports, which I will review next, I couldn't help but notice that the 4-hour ride was pleasant, everything worked and was intuitive and easy to operate, the clutch was light and the gear shifts buttery smooth. Yup, that's a Honda. In this price range, you can't beat this bike for refinement, and kudos to Honda for continuing to refine the platform. Small changes are all you need when the product is already so well put together. It's not for everyone, meaning not for the hardcore off-roaders, but it is going to appeal to perhaps the widest range of riders looking for an adventure bike in this price range. My wife Brooke would love it, but is a brand new mom, so is a bit too busy for a new motorcycle right now. Maybe someday. But what about you? Which motorcycle in the smaller, lighter adventure bike category appeals to you the most? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Ride safe, and may the spokes be with you.